Okay, and open the file called loft in the homework folder. So 3-06, open it. There are already some lines generated for you, and I recommend that you all do a little bit more exploratory and see what loft can do. It's quite a good tool. Let's look at that with a little bit better display. So this shape here is created by loft using circles. So if you look at the circles, they are on top of each other. So we would select loft 2, and according to the command line, we should select curves. So we just basically select one by one, but selected according to the sequence. So you are not selecting the first one and the third one and come back to the second. You're not going to do that because that will twist the shape. So press enter, and by default you can see there are some arrows on each of the curve. If we look at the floor plan, that they are pretty much in line with each other, and they're all going the same direction. So by default this works fine to create what we want to create, and I would just press enter, and without doing anything just say OK. So then we were able to create a shape like this by this tool called loft. So let's delete this one and do a different option. Select loft again and select out the shape. Press enter. And at this point we can sort of drag this little arrow and place them at a different location. So if you're done, you just click on the surface on the screen. And then for example, this one you can also flip. There's an option called flip also, or otherwise you can place your mouse to any of the point, and then it will come up with another little tiny arrow going to a different direction. If we click, then this location is flipped to a different location. So if we press enter, this second loft will look a little bit twisted because we first moved one of the arrow, and secondly we flipped one of the arrows. So let's press enter. Well, this is certainly not what we want because it's really twisted. So we say cancel. So probably we don't want to really flip any of them. So let's do it again. Just move one of the arrow without flipping. Let's move this one a little bit, and maybe move the top one a little bit as well. So, and then we say OK. So this is a little bit twisted loft, however it still look okay. It's just a different type of loft. So let's look at some other options that we have. Again, select loft 2, and certainly we can select all 4 shape and then press enter. We have a different options. Basically we can probably say flip, yeah, and select seam to flip, which would be this. However, you know, this is the same way as you put your mouse over. We may not really want to do that. It's just a different way to do flip. So maybe I put my mouse over to this corner and then sort of just stay there for a little while, and hopefully the flip will come up. Again, if not, click on flip. Yeah, so then we'll flip back again. So let's press enter and look at some other options. So once the window comes out, there are different options. They have something called loose. We can probably click and look at how it looks like. Didn't seem to have a lot of difference from normal. So maybe if let's say okay. Actually, it is different once we select it. Basically means this is a loose sort of a loft, so it didn't really go through the rings, but sort of just follow the direction. So this is a loose, and delete, and let's click on loft again and look at some other options. And I recommend that you all try different options. For example, we could say close loft, and then if we close, let's see what's going to happen. Oh, this is probably not really what we want, because it's really distorted. It's going to back and forth, so that basically go from 1, 2, 3, 4, and from 4 goes back to 1. So the whole thing sort of become a closed shape. However, this is maybe not what we want. Yeah. Okay. So let's look at some other options. We have other set of lines. If you look at some of that, for example, this one is one up, one down, up and down, some lines. If we look at from different view, yeah, I move this one away a little bit so that you can see. So it's sort of looking like this from the right view. So let's click on loft. So that's another loft. Yeah, I would not finish. And of course, you can also do loft for this set of line. If you look at, again, I will pull it out so that you can look. We can single them out more carefully. So those lines, 3 of them are a little bit longer, and another 3 are a little bit shorter. So they're kind of go by the sequences. So we could do another loft and select lines to loft. In this case, we probably want to use close loft. It looks like it's coming out with some kind of awkward shape on one of the side. So while you create your loft, you probably want to select one of the end rather than select this end and come in here and go to the other end on the shorter line. If that's the case, your loft may just go a little bit twisted. So when we select the same end. Yeah, so maybe when I do my first selection, I was clicking at 2 different ends. So in this case, we want to close the loft and say OK. There are other shapes. For example, this whole side is quite interesting with 2 different shape, basically circles as well as sort of a squarish shape. So let's do a loft for this. So click on loft and select the curve. So in this case, I'm trying to click on only the top, and I'll say OK, and I may want to close and say OK. So yeah, so it sort of become a loft, an interesting loft, yeah, with transition of shape from one to another. The last one right here that I'm going to show it to you is in terms of different corners. So let's say we do a loft, but then we actually select number 2, maybe number 3 here, maybe number 4 here, or maybe number 1 here. And looks like for this case it didn't really, because I assume this is an enclosed line. So if that's the case, the direction of the line or the place where we click wouldn't make too much difference. So we could pretty much just click on anywhere on the shape, and then we press enter. But in this case, we could certainly move one of the end to another end. So we are dragging this one down, and we are dragging the other one down. And if that's the case, we say okay. And then if we close the loft, yeah, it just have a much more interesting result by dragging the arrow to a different location. So that's pretty much loft. I recommend that everybody finish the exercise and maybe create a different set of lines so that you can explore more opportunities with loft.